Namaskar, Adab, Sat Shri Akal. A very warm welcome, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Wherever you are, hope you're doing well, staying safe, and staying healthy. आज का conversation, आज का topic. I know you all have been waiting for this. You have shared your views in the last session. I have shared my views as well. But you also wanted to get some of the experts, some of those people who have shared their views when it was implemented, shared their views when there was a lot of hue and cry going around the laws, and then we got a chance to hear Colonel RDX share his views once they were repealed. Now, before I get the guests on the screen, let me just kind of summarize and let me just give you a snapshot. Uh, on the timeline and how and what things have transpired between September of last year till now, when these have been repealed. 5th June is when these three farm laws or three farm bills were introduced in the Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, and we got the approval. सबसे पहले जो sign up हुआ था वो November सितंबर में we got the approvals. सितंबर से ही भारत बंद, tractor, Andolan and whatnot has been going on. So if you look at that, 25th September was the first time. अभी वो implement हुए भी नहीं थे, अभी president ने signature किए भी नहीं थे, and there were opposition, who were targeting these bills. Uh, 27th go finally 27th September 2020 when it finally became a bill after the honorable president signed it. Uske baad se November 25th onwards, it has been a havoc. Uh, Delhi chalo yahan se shuru hue the when everybody started marching towards the borders. Uh, फिर उसके चलते गवर्नमेंट ने discussions करनी शुरू की between December 3rd to the first week of actually December was all about conversations, discussions to see if we could resolve something around the farmers bill, make them understand the farmers bill or the different clauses. But December 11th, it was kind of pre-decided that all these three bills will not be accepted by the farmers union. They will be rejecting them. They will do anything and everything to go against that. uh, January 12th go, even the Supreme Court, they put their foot down and they said, this implementation needs to be stopped or stayed at that point of time. 26th January, the black day in our history. We saw what happened on January 26th. और उसके बाद से February 5th को, the toolkit happened. May 27th को, eventually everything kind of looked like it had to be repealed. And now, as you all know, 2 days ago, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has made the statement where he's clarified these will be repealed. We shared all the details. We shared some of those, viewpoints in the last session. But Aj, I am really blessed, honored to have two amazing people, two experts in their own rights, who will be talking about it. We'll be asking them questions. So मेरी सिर्फ एक बार जैसे मैं normally request कहता हूँ, please, if you are coming, then have respect of time. One question, one viewpoint, and make it quick, because I would rather let these two gentlemen talk, speak, share their views, and explain to us what does it mean that these three farm bills have been repealed. What does it mean for us? What does it mean for the farmers? What does it mean for BJP? What does it mean for other parties? And overall, where do we see these going? So, without wasting any more time, I'm going to get both of them on the screen. Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to the show again.
Right.
Namaste.
All right. I know Colonel would say, let's start with Savio, because that's how it always is. So, Savio, a lot of things. I know today's session was supposed to be about something else, but we have tons and tons of things that have happened in the last couple of days, weeks, and even months. So it became all the more important that we talk about the farmers' bill today, and maybe at the very end we can touch upon some of the idiotic things that some of those people have done, and defamed our country. But around the farmers bill. And today I'm not going to ask what's top of your mind, because I know Goa is always on top of your mind and there are things around that. But we will focus our conversation around farmers bill today. So I'll go right into it. How do you see this whole situation right now? Your viewpoint.
Well, Varun, when the farm laws were introduced and were passed, many people called it an historic moment. When the farm laws got repealed, they called it a historic moment as well. Between the historic moments lies the truth behind the farm laws, right?
Yeah.
My personal opinion is I think farm laws and the reforms that were planned with the farm laws were very important for the country in a long term perspective. Yes, it did require a certain amount of modification, which could have been done with certain sections of the farmer lobby that were lobbying for this particular repealment of the laws. Did not want the reforms to really to go ahead. What they wanted was the control of the farming practices, controlled by what you call as the mandi or the middleman. So I believe there was a very strong middleman lobby that actually put these protesters to the task. Some of them were genuine farmers that had issues, as most of them were not. I think the farmer protest took a very deviant turn when you had certain anti-national elements becoming a part of it, and the real purpose of the farm laws then got lost and it started to get into a protest and cause an inconvenience to a lot of people across the border. Now, when an organization, like when they put out the ad in New York Times, and if you look at the list of the organizations that were there was one organization which was the CARE, which is the Council of American Islamic Relationships, and they are an organization that's known to be working very closely with Islamic terror sympathizers and terror groups. So I would wonder what would a CARE do, putting out an ad in New York Times. And then, of course, you had the other celebrities like Mia Khalifa and Rihanna, and every one of them is so, uh, touched by the Indian farmers' crisis that everybody got into it. So it was a large lobby that was actually working towards ensuring that reforms don't happen. I'm not saying that every aspect of the farm law was good, which is why I said it needed a certain modification. But the route taken by the protesters was completely wrong. It was anarchy in nature. It was blackmail in nature, and to succumb to them from a government point of view might be considered historic by many people. I don't agree with the decision taken by the prime minister, but I suppose and I believe that the prime minister would have his own reasons for doing that, and he would have more information from a perspective of national security as well as the overall implication to take that decision. So you could say that it's got something to do with elections. You could say it got something to do with national security. All that is fine. The fact of the matter is, to the general public, for one, it was a historic decision to bring the law, and to them now it's a historic decision to repeal the law. Between the two decisions lies the historic truth, which at some point of time we will realize why. Because after all, everybody, the ones that hate Modi say that he's finally succumbed to the power and the pressure of the farmers. And the ones who love Modi say he's done it for the farmers. So in the end, the truth is, was that law necessary? Were the reforms necessary? Yes, the reforms were necessary. Were they necessary in the format that they had? They needed a few modifications. But if a certain section of society is going to take within that farmer group itself does not want it, and there's a lingering issue that's been persisting for a long time, then I think the PM has taken a decision based on that to withdraw the laws. It's not a good thing to do, because what you're doing is you're giving a message out that tomorrow any law that needs to be repealed people will just block roads, people will just go ahead
Correct.
and create an anarchist situation. That kind of fear psychosis that they used both at the Shaheen Bagh issue as well as now for the farmers' protest is only a start to what I see would be further protests that will happen on various different issues
Yeah.
as we head to the 224 elections. So, in my opinion, I think the decision, though brave from the BJP, and though having all the reasons that they would, which I'm not privy to, in my opinion, is not a good decision. And they should have continued with it and taken it on the chin as they were going ahead and deal with these anarchists because they were really what they were, anarchists.
Got it. Now, you've kind of covered a lot of questions and a lot of things that I also wanted to ask. Now, let me just jump to Colonel and get his viewpoint, because one of the things which I also want to ask and get your expert opinion about is, you said it very rightly, Savio. This is going to set a lot of, maybe I don't know if I can use the word wrong, but it is definitely going to set a lot of precedents around other things, other issues, or other rules or laws that might be implemented in the future, or might have already been implemented in the past. And this might end up like a resort to everybody that, you know what, we can do this, and the prime minister will come, the government will come to this way of repealing or asking to reject certain laws or certain criteria. So uh, before we get into that, Colonel, your viewpoint around what Savio said, and as well as how do you see this repeal that has happened?
Right. So I most certainly agree with what Sabio said, all the three parts where he said that the laws were necessary, they could have been modified, and that it may set a precedence. So having said that, there are a couple of things I want to just add, not as a caveat, but as a proposition to think about. So the repealing of these laws, which were not implemented any time actually, could have come in various timelines. It could have come initially when things happened and 26 January happened, whatever happened. The government had a choice to repeal it then or not continue. The government had a choice after a few months. The government had the choice to do it midway, and the government had a choice to do when it is done, that is on Guru Purab, and the government had a choice to continue for a little more time. And also, the government had a choice not to relent. But the question was that this was already stayed at the Supreme Court for the longest time, and there was no decision coming in through from that quarter. I have a personal hunch, and it may be incorrect, that many quarters of our bureaucracy and our judiciary are still quite sublime in terms of seeing national interest. They are more inclined to their personal interest, and that's a threat to any government, and including this one. The other part which we need to see is that in this delayed kind of a response by the government to repeal it and not doing it prematurely earlier, what they've actually done is that they have given the benefits of an enhanced MSP right through the last year. They have made money go into the pockets of the farmers, the marginal farmers. Let's not forget, 60% people say or plus today, and that's the farming community in the country in terms of population. And 85% nearly of that 60% is the marginal farmer. So they have benefited through their schemes, a lot of these marginal farmers, including in the states from where the protest came in. When you go into the nitty gritties, and like Savi was trying to allude to in terms of the support to this movement initially, and how it was veiled as a support to somebody taking off the mantle to drive the other narrative of dividing the country, primarily to ensure that this government or whatever is seen as to be a very strong government under the prime minister, how to get it down, and also to make inroads for the funding of the state, which earlier used to be through various nefarious routes. Post the elections in Punjab last time, and when a lot of link, and Savio has a lot of inclination towards this intelligence which we had that time, and he may like to share. I will not. So at that point of time, it was also discerned that some political parties were enjoying a lot of largesse from abroad, and now on the garb of this protest, a lot of unison in a lot of these forces which are anti-national to our cause were coming about. So the government had a choice, like Savio said, that you stick on to your guns and say no more. But what do you do with this gun when the bullets have been taken off and the Supreme Court is holding the bullets to say we'll let you know when, right? And in the same time, you have fed the benefits of the law to the majority of farmers. So my feeling is the reasons are many, and the reasons are also political, maybe. Let's start from the bottom. The bottommost, in the pit is the political reason. If I were to see it as a naive politician, political bent of mind, I would say it's a master stroke. It's a master stroke because on account of something which has actually benefited the larger, community, you today have said that you failed to convince the others, that is the minority of the farmers, right? And that is why you are repealing. Imagine with the background of the benefit, prolonged benefit given for the last 1.5 years, what is the kind of, the base which has been pro this government while getting those benefits for their personal selves or their families. Now imagine if this movement is to restart, and I am always seeing a comeback in this movement. The movement has gone nowhere. So what the Prime Minister also alluded to, he said that we'll form a committee. Committee will have XYZ whatever from all states, and it will also have farmers. So if you have a committee in which you have XYZ and the farmers come from a broader spectrum across the nation, that is pan India, the voices are going to count only in those numbers. And my belief is it is going to be a little much more democratic. And my belief is whatever Savio is alluding to, and also a lot of rational agri scientists have also alluded to otherwise, or economists, is that it is a smooth time for the government that through this committee to be able to push those methodical changes, to push those changes in which the farmer feels a little more assured, because most of this entire takeoff towards the side of a protest and beyond to the anti-national movement, which it led to finally in many ways, you found that it was the sheer doubt sown in the mind of the farmer that A, he may actually not even reach the MSP and somebody may force him to sell cheaper. B, the land may be taken away by corporate bigwigs. And these kind of a hypothesis, when you create in minds of people who have taken loans from various micro financing companies, not even that, they've taken from individuals, and they're succumbing to that pressure, there is a problem. So what the government intended to do with the double income of farmers was to get that average monthly income, which is a paltry sub 5,000 rupees in our country, and to be able to make them benefit from this process. It actually led to a lot of fear. And when the fear was magnified, and fear can be in anybody, right? You want to stand on a 10-meter board, jump in NDA as a kid. There is fear in many people. Jokers like me can jump 10 times over, but then some people have fear, and fear of the unknown, what happens next. So similarly, you imagine a farmer, his fear for unknown is even more because he has taken loans. He has taken a lakh plus on an average as a loan, marginal farmer. So you if you stoke that fire and then take it to one side, and let me tell you, anybody can say anything that the movement was farmer led. No, the movement was never farmer led after a few days. In fact, the movement was way led, and the farmers was also waded into it. And that is not the democratic way of doing a dharna. So you telling me that the farmer of this country was doing what they were doing, right from blocking the highways to make life miserable for the other billion in this country, and also doing some very unimaginable acts of butchering a human. I don't think so that was a farmer led part. Yes, the farmers were there. And how were the farmers there, and why were the farmers there last season in the same time when they were supposed to be sowing their lands or tilling their lands? They were there because there was a certain degree of a political kind of a whip through the headmen of the village and other kind of arthrias, middlemen, the money controllers, the people who had loaned money and all that, to make sure that compulsorily people were sitting on the borders. So don't tell me that those borders were being occupied by people at their own free will right across this period we have seen it. because one interacts with a lot of people. I know what's happening on ground. So that was one of the part. Now, and the political part, I think it's a master stroke because people, and this is my personal view. So don't take me to be, trying to talk for the government or the party or the leader. But if I take it as a man standing outside, here is a man accused of many things, nothing proven. Courts have acquitted him very properly, taking back a decision. Now imagine this taking back and repealing of the law. How can you portray it even differently? The world leaders who met, people from the US who talked then, who were supposed to be, who were actually given a shut up call from our side about their own country, and then to share the intelligence, to be able to interact with the Canadian Prime Minister during the G20 and whatever exchange in terms of intelligence there. I think it's a pretty good move. And you see the social media. So there are two kinds of people on social media. The one kind is the so-called people who are labeled as bhags or otherwise by the left, who themselves are saying that Modi shouldn't have done this, right? So what has it done? It has unified a voice to come around and say that we should be firm in our dealings. So that's clearly a mandate going into the next elections, in which they would expect you to be much more stronger and resolute. So if you are the leader, say if I were the leader today, and if the input is coming to me about how the masses are thinking, I exactly know how to use that particular sentiment to my advantage, because that sentiment is not going to go into the advantage of any opposition today. You imagine farm laws are repealed, and instead of the farmers celebrating, with firecrackers and people feeling very happy, they are feeling, what the hell, man? What did he just say? What will we do now? It is something like people have become jobless suddenly. Their entire strife, because if they go off that place, the entire funding stops. The loops which has been created in the last 1 year to divert money into various other things on the name of the farmer protest, where does it go? It's a big challenge. So you find that joker on the streets yesterday talking about, I will wait. He wants a stamp and angutha by the government of the India of the country to give it to him on a paper before he calls it off, and then he can't do it himself, because then he says we want 5 more things to happen, including an MSP to be written. My dear friend, without writing, this government was doing more in terms of percentile enhancement of the MSP. So you want to tell us that you will go only then? I'm quite sure people like them have no place in their own homelands today to go back and show their face.
Or maybe they're
So
worried, right?
that
That's
is
what
the
we
worry.
discussed.
That is the worry. And you imagine when we are leading up to this winters, and I agree 100% with Savio, times are going to get only tougher, because not only was the protest in Shaheen Bagh, a manifestation of anarchy, so was this to a large degree. And farmers may have protested, but the people who took the currency out and encashed were not the farmers in this protest. So who were they? So there's a much of a broader thought process to go in, and I think politically the game is over, and politically you can't take this advantage from the current dispensation, unless they have some plan to goof up more themselves. It can't go. The second is on the part of the farm laws itself. The farm laws itself, except the packaging probably, because the packaging was misinterpreted, and many people have talked about it, right from the European journals who talk about it, like from our think tank who talked about it. Everybody talked about it, right? So it should have been packaged well. So packaging, I think it's on its way. So people would have decided, if they were in the right mind in the government, to decide on how to package it well and how to deliver it. And obviously, to initiate this new mail, you don't have to be the custodian, right? The new mail will be led by a committee and the farmers themselves. And hypothetically, let me just have a brackish kind of a thought. Say after the committee is going through whatever, and suddenly the court again wakes up, and court questions the government that why did you repeal? What do? There will be enough money being pumped in today in our country to ensure that somehow this repealment does not happen at all, and somehow it takes a shade back, whether it has to blame the judiciary to be in cahoots with the government or whatever. So you can imagine anything. This is one absolutely abstract track I'm thinking about. highly possible in our country. The money bags are so full to ensure that this strife which is happening, which is absolutely undemocratic, continues. Otherwise, I think it's a better time even for the education minister to look at this entire scheme of Shine Bagh till now and inculcate some chapters in our education to ensure that what protest means, people start learning from the basic schooling here on. Otherwise, this kind of a pattern will continue. That's for the future. Coming to the national security part, I think there were enough inputs, and I think the Pandora's box, which probably there is a hint in the air in Delhi that Captain Amrinder talked about it. My personal feeling is there were inputs being garnered, and in the term, in the manner in which the government agencies collected the evidences for Shaheen Bagh, they were doing an extremely good job in collecting a lot of evidence in this movement itself. Similar fund, was tracked back to a political party plus during the previous election in Punjab. There was, I think, a chief minister who stood, tom tom as a monkey on every platform and talk about the prime minister with a lot of dishonor. That tom-tomming monkey actually stopped after a while. The reason for that was not that he lost his throat or his voice. The reason was that monkey was shown the mirror, and along the mirror he was shown the sustenance of his whatever creed through a lot of illegal funding. So monkey stopped howling thereafter. So I think a lot of evidence is there, and I think it all pointed out to a lot of things what is happening today with Punjab being mired in the kind of a I would say a holocaust of a nature in which you are trying to hit at the roots of this nation's kind of a bonhomie and integrity. There are a huge number of chances. There were, I should say, not anymore going in the future, that it could have been exploited. And I think it's not a bad decision at all. And I don't forget what the Pradhan Sevak said that day, and I appreciate. And like I will not mince my words. There would have been different stages to act differently. So we know when people protest what other governments have done in the past, right? Including quelling that protest with force. But here, if you take the same coin of human rights, humanity, rights of people, liberty, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, everything done. So everything those Indian journalists wrote for $500 in the New York Times and the others, I think this man has withstood that storm and proven that India is absolutely democratic. It is so democratic that you can call names to the prime minister and still survive. You can do whatever you want to, and still you can have your say. So I think that there couldn't be a better democracy. It doesn't happen in US actually, right? So on those parameters, I think that attempt to defame our nation on the garb of this protest, that kind of a coin has been taken away again.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with Savio. Had Savio or me been in this position, probably we wouldn't have relented, in that sense. But I think there is always a game plan. And in terms of a game plan, if I can see a little bit through what's happening, I think there's a comeback. That comeback, yes, like Savio says, could be a question mark for a few months because you don't want to spoil probably your political chances to continue in 2024. You don't want to unruffle the weather too much. So you need to take your time, bide your time. But I think it's a very smart move. He said with the same breath that the committee will be formed. I don't know who didn't get it. Everybody got that, right? All these people who I don't know, people are not even celebrating. I don't know. This is something wrong, Varun. They're not even
Right.
celebrating,
No, I
right?
know.
The farmers are happy. I crossed Delhi to that site, from Punjab to that site yesterday when I was talking
Right.
to you.
Yeah.
That entire place, I'll tell you how it looked yesterday. It was all like mothballed, right? Like you mothball a combat vehicle. It was all mothballed. It was all covered. It was all put between ropes that it doesn't fly away. All these small cars, big cars, jeeps, and whatever they had, tractors, were nicely parked. And the road was so smooth that for the first time in last 1.5 years, I have crossed that path with only 4 hours 15 minutes to reach Delhi.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Right? Delhi means central Delhi, where I stay. So the farmers were not there, but I believe they've been again called back today. So some of them have traveled back to go and sit back again. That's the way it goes in politics, Varun. It's Indian politics. It will take time to mature. And unless people are so literate that they just don't give in and go and sit on a place like that at the cost of their own family, their community, and their own personal selves. I think that day will come, and that's only through education. So I believe in all this, lesson planning from the prime minister to the agriculture minister to any law and order minister. I think the education minister has got a deeper role to play for the future of our country.
Correct. I think you've covered a lot of things in this bit that you said. Now let me go back to Savio. You also mentioned certain things around the politics and all that stuff. I would love to hear Savio on that as well. But let me just pinpoint you and let me just mute Colonel. Colonel, there is some static noise coming from your headphone, I guess. Okay, now it's fine. Savio, one statement. Let me just, quote what Narendra Modi ji said. I couldn't understand few farmers. Or the other statement that he mentioned was, "जो किया किसानों के लिए किया, जो कर रहा हूँ देश के लिए कर रहा हूँ." Now, if I have to ask you, how do you read, interpret, what message do you get out of these comments and many more other comments as well? But love to hear what you have to say.
You, you see, Varun, when I met the Prime Minister a couple of months ago, one of the points that we did discuss very much in passing was the farm laws, and even at that stage, he was a little disturbed that they were not able to communicate or convince the certain lobbies that were there on the importance of the farm laws for the larger interest of the country. And this was sometime, a couple of months ago when I met him, hardly 2 months ago. So when he did take that decision and made the statement, I was not surprised by it. Like I said, I'm sure there are compulsive reasons why he's done it, and there would have been a logic to it. I don't necessarily agree with it. But when he says he did it for the farmers and then he's doing it for the country, the only interpretation I can make out of that is in the larger interest of the national security of the country. That would be of prime importance. There were considerable amount of elements that were nefarious elements, some propped by a lot of international assistance, to try and create a destabilization of activities in the country. And they were doing that by the blockage of the roads, by their constant unruly behavior. They were to intensify it, in the days ahead, and they would have looked at the parliamentary session to further intensify the protests. So this was going to be a continuous thing, and I think it was in that interest that they decided to repeal the laws that are there. Like I said, I don't agree with it because I don't see the protests reducing in any form. Number one, the purpose of the protest was not the farm laws. That was just a route for them to target Narendra Modi and the BJP government. And more than Narendra Modi and the BJP government, the target really is the progress of India. So anything got to do with laws or progressive laws or reforms are always going to find some sort of hindrances. Which is why after the repealing of the laws, you had somebody from the Muslim community ask for the repealing of the CAA as well. You know, saying that you should do that. I think Hoesi also has made some similar statement. I'm not sure yet, but I know one Muslim, uh, you know, uh, prominent person made that statement. So this is really it was a catch-22 situation. So there is never a right or a wrong decision, it's just a decision that you need to take at that point of time that makes the most logical sense. And I'm sure the prime minister is privy to information that allowed for him to say, okay, I'm going to take this decision. We can speculate a lot on why and what, and things like that. But I think it's really something that he has done out of the interest for the country. And knowing Narendra Modi, I think he would do it looking at all avenues of the situation, and look at what benefits the country larger, there will of course be the benefit to him and the BJP. If it's done for a political reason, I don't see anything wrong in that. If we did it for a political reason also, I mean, everybody plays games as far as politics is concerned, but the intent was pure. So I see Narendra Modi's decision is like it's like let's say a parent, right? A parent wants the child to go to a particular do a particular thing, and the child insists, no, I this is not good. I don't want to do it. I don't want to study science, for example, and says, no, I want to do arts. But the parent keeps on persisting, and the kid says, all right, I don't want to do it, and it really gets a unruly atmosphere. And then the parent says, okay, you want to do arts, just go ahead and do it, because that's your choice of life now. I had given you a better choice, right? It's something as similar as that. So I think it's important for us to move on, to look at the larger picture, which is that our enemies are there. They're disguised. They use the downtrodden, the weak in society, to try and target us. They did that with Shahid Bagh, with a complete miscommunication on what the CAA bill was all about, and they did it with the farmer protest. I think they are the greater danger that we have to look out for. As far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, I don't doubt his commitment to the country or to the people of India. So I'm sure that decision, while I don't agree with it, is done in keeping in mind the interest of the people.
Perfect. And let me just add one more thing, before I ask Colonel as well. Uh, Everybody, I'll be very honest. I've been to spaces. I've been listening to so many people. I don't know whether I should have done that or not, but I really wanted to get a kind of a overall perspective. There were spaces yesterday. I can't even talk about some of those spaces. They were pro the decision. They were anti-decision. I went to one of those Pakistani-led spaces where they were like taking it to a altogether different level. And then I heard, another space where it was, they were raising slogans in that space. First time I ever saw that spaces could be used for such things as well. And I was like, where am I? Am I standing on a road, street? What is this procession going on in a space? But one thing which it was common across all these spaces, whether you like Modi, you don't like, whether you like the decision or you don't like, everybody believes that this is a good precedence now. As if I want to get something done, I just have to gather people. I have to choke it. I have to choke, the leadership, my leadership. It could be the state leadership. It could be the central leadership. It doesn't really matter. But this is one way of getting my stuff done. How do you see that? Do you see this getting into a bigger problem for our country overall, or do you see this is just one-off case?
No, no, I completely believe that the first taste of blood was the CAA protest. Then that was followed by the Delhi riots that happened along with it. The farmer protest was the second taste of blood. I think it's only going to get worse. I I'm not a doomsday advocate, and people know me. If I'm talking through some hardcore analysis or intel, because you need to understand one thing. Uh, 10 years of being out of power causes people to actually go crazy in the head, to come up with harebrained ideas, to create instability. Now, the only way you can defeat anybody in this country is to create a situation that is like a civil war, that is like a communal war, or that is like a caste war. These are the three aspects. They're trying the civil aspect because they've realized that probably the caste and the communal might not really be that effective, but they might even get down to getting into caste and communal in the days to come. My biggest fear, which is what I've voiced out to many people in the government, is that prepare ourselves for something that is big in terms of destabilizing the government and creating some sort of anarchy. You see, I'll tell you where the problem is. The problem is in the optics, the problem is in the perception. So, because they have a good stranglehold on media, not only in India and the rest of the world as well, The messaging that goes out is that of a defeat. No matter what Prime Minister Modi says, no matter how many people call it a masterstroke, to the rest of the people of India, people who are talking about master strokes and various other decisions, to them they're just stroking around. It's not something that they consider it to be great. They see it as just a weak decision. So while us who know him understand that no, it's not a weak decision, but the perception, the building, the narrative, you see, you have to look at how narratives are being controlled. When you're saying people have, when a large number of people have said that now they have to take to the road to protest for anything and block people, that's exactly the problem. Because now every Tom, Dick, and Harry who has some grudge against this government has a group of people that they can control and are funded, will take to the street and cause an inconvenience to everybody. That's the problem. The problem when you give in. You gave in at Shaheen Bagh as well. It was only the COVID crisis that allowed for the protesters to move from there.
Yeah.
You did the same in the farmer protest. You might score brownie points, which is great, and it might be a master stroke. I just hope that the rest of the people in India don't die of a heart stroke because of that kind of a decision. You don't play with anarchists, you crush anarchists.
Well said, Savio. Very, 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 yeah, strong message for sure. Colonel, how do you see this, and what do you have to say?
Yes, so I agree with Savio again, and I'll just give a little, Savio, a spin to it. So what happens is, just go back to 2014 when the government, came in and took office. Overwhelming majority, whatever happened, made the government. What was the talk? The talk was a lot of revival to happen in the future, and it took a sentiment of nationalism to a level that people who even spoke about the nation were called bhakts. Right? We reached a stage of a crescendo maybe a couple of years back. What's happening now, and this is where I see it a little differently when we see what's happening. It is that today one man and his team have been able to get every wolf out of their skin and to the front, right? So the people who were hiding behind levels and tiers are now facing, and they're combining. So it was taste of blood, Shaheen Bagh, 10 bulls came around. It was again now, 8 more joined in. So what you're doing is you're getting the wolves around. And remember, in our nation, this community of wolves together, even if packed together, will be a number finally, right? A number. And when you say yes, I couldn't convince, even if you didn't want to say, I would have said convince you fools. Okay, I'll take it back. This particular incident, it is not solidifying the intent of any wolf because the numbers remain the same. They can sing a different tune every day and glorify each other to say they've achieved something. Somebody was trying to give the credit to a lady, somebody to somebody else. So now they will start hunting for credit, whose credit it was. Even the news channels are saying we thought about it first, right? So you leave them aside. What's happening on the other side is the majority. The majority is the one which constitutes of people who are vocal, people who are silent, people who are sitting on the fence, and the people who are deciding to make an opinion. And it is this larger lot which is today saying, actually, if you see the social media as well, which is saying initially, lot many people had a problem with it to say, kneeling down before anarchism, right? By evening, most of them who were saying that were saying it was some larger group or a masterstroke has been played. But what it is doing is it is solidifying the majority. And whenever in any democracy, the majority is solidified with views, with opinions, with something to achieve, what will the wolves achieve? Nothing more than this, right? They can achieve, they can come to a party, they can wail, and they can go back. This will keep going. And I 100% agree with Savio. The context of this, coming together and trying to, defame the country, to push the country, to, hit the country, will continue. And I agree with him when he says the voices will become stronger. because they're tasting blood, right? So 8 wolves, 9 wolves, 10 wolves, but eventually all the wolves will join probably, and that's the best case scenario. And whence and every time these wolves join, the majority is fast realizing and awakening. If that is in the process of the think tank within this government to achieve before 2024, I think they are silently doing a great job of it. That's a perspective, there's a perception to look from, right, maybe wrong. But if you actually think how the psychology is playing of a citizen today or the diaspora, so you think that some X dollars from a country beyond the Atlantic, which is coming in to fuel the K Khalisani movement or whatever we call it, is enough to break this country? Do we know the power of the other diaspora and the other people if they fund the right causes in the country? And imagine if that is evoked and that is invoked finally, what will be the strength of this majority? So it's a perception. So like Savio is saying, I 100% agree when he says that people have tasted blood and they will do more. There will be more routes leading to anarchy in this country. But tell me, who will do this anarchy? Will Savio and people like me and others, just because income tax we want it to be increased from my side, maybe somebody says no, decrease, come to the street with 20 people and do a movement? It won't happen, right? This anarchy will always be by these wolves who are coming out from the sheep's skin they've been wearing for the longest time, and they're getting exposed. It has to be only this way, Varun. So these are the people who will come ahead, and like Savio says, 10 votes today, 20 tomorrow, 30 tomorrow, and finally 100, all 100. But finally it's only 100. And what are the 100 votes going to face? 1 million on the other side. So our aim is to make sure that the 1 million on the other side don't lose heart. Our aim is not to crush those 100 votes. They are crushed. They are crushed with so much of humiliation of defeats they have seen, that they are doing everything using all tools necessary, including defaming their own country. So what are we talking about? The 100 wolves? The 100 wolves cannot eat our civilization, but the 1 million of us who stand together will make the difference and continue to do so. And people can try this. People can try this. It's not going to happen in the manner in which they visualize, right? And who tells us 30 wolves got together this time? Next time even 5 get together for a stupid cause. What is stopping the government of the day to putting an end to it initially? Nothing. You imagine the evidences of the funding, everything in the hand. I'm telling you, out of these 30, 20 wolves will dissipate soon, not to be heard for a long time. If that is the government's modus operandi, very nice. I will appreciate it. What's wrong with it? If you could make one howling monkey not shriek for the longest time now, there are 10 more monkeys. Same method works, because they are all stooges of some other foreign power and funding. So I don't believe that we are going to be at any point of time as a country here on weak. Yes, we may find our decisions to be weak at times. It happens with everybody. At times we also take very weak decisions individually. We may find it to be weak. But yes, if it ends up to be the weakest decision in history, which led to dismemberment of our country, probably we won't live to see that day. But as I see today, it hasn't been the weakest decision of the country. Imagine, and on a very different personal note towards this, Pradhan Sevak of ours, the man who has been labeled over and over and over and over and over again with a one word which does not describe him at all, but the world wants to impose on him: fascist. You can call him anything today, but not that. So he has taken away that one labeling, the mislabeled portion, and thrown that nameplate into the Indian Ocean, never to resurface. Nobody in the international fora, nobody in I mean, if I say mildly, Nobel Prize winning moment will ever hold it against him anymore, because he's not a fascist. Because what did we say? Yes, you said he succumbed to people sitting in 3 or 4 places on a border, right? That's what you are rejoicing on as wolves. So by what token will you now go and prove him to be a fascist? It's taken off. It's not on the agenda. Smart move. So there are many ways to look at what we are looking today, and I don't think so. It's in any way a weak decision, because at times when it leads to a lot of disruption like this, I mean, at best you can call it a wise decision, but you can't call it a foolish decision because the decision is still not taken. Coming to what Savio said, and that is the most worrying, which we need to take care of, and that is the ability to gauge the force, the congregation, and the impetus by which these wolves will react in the future. Aim will be 120% from here till they have their say in the polity of this country again, to destabilize us to such a degree that we don't surface in 2024. That's the broad aim. And I will not be out of sync to say, if they control so much of media, if they control and have favors from so much of world media, you may have out of 10, 8 social media platforms blocking a Savio in 2023 October, blocking somebody like somebody else thereafter. So when you come to pooling in of resources and minds and everything, it is going to be a very ugly contested elections going forward. And that is why the only thing which can save a little bit of grace there is one India, one election. I just hope he's able to pull that off somehow. Because if you don't pull it off, the problem is, how it works in trains and buses and where people reach in our country, it's going to be mayhem that time. So that is one last, nail which the anarchists would like to do when our elections are on next time. And I'm absolutely thinking about scenarios and what could go wrong then. Actually, many things go, and in fact, everything can go wrong then. You can ice it up with a political assassination. You can do whatever. It can come in any form. It doesn't have to be a bullet. You think of anything is possible in this in this sphere where we have scoundrels who rule the roost in our parliament, uneducated murderers and people who are guilty of many crimes sit there. And like again say, if somebody has a job at hand, besides the PMO, it is the how you refine the education system in our country. And I'm very worried, because the next generation should not have the same mantle of seeing such an anarchy being able to even call the shots for a brief moment. It should never rise.
Right. Even though I have some questions and some points here, I see a few people in the chat already who definitely, I think, are not able to take your answers and kind of. So I like this platform is all about. I would love to kind of uh, get your answers to somebody like Harpreet who's saying we defeated fascist Hindu government. Any comment? Anything you wanna give to him?
He defeated what?
Sorry, what?
He defeated what? Just tell him to describe which government has he defeated.
Right. Okay. And now I invite actually people. Anybody,
No, no.
anybody.
I want to be very clear. Let me just read what is written. Firstly, who is this we? And second, which is the government they defeated? The first word and the last word. Can you describe what is we and which is the government you defeated? And I'll tell you where is this government today.
Okay. And while we wait for him to kind of
Yeah,
respond, or
I want that person to answer. Only two words. What is the
yes,
we,
yeah,
and which is the government is talking about?
got it. Perfect. All right. So I have Akash. Akash, I guess you wanted to ask something to Sabio or Colonel. Please go ahead.
Hi Varun, hi
Hello.
Kana sir, and hi Savio sir. Actually मेरा कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है बट मैं डिसएग्री करता हूँ आप लोग से, सॉरी टू से। आई मीन मुझे नहीं लगता ये कोई मास्टर स्ट्रोक है या मास्टर ब्लंडर है, सॉरी सर। ये मैं पर्सनल व्यू है। आई मीन अगर इस तरह से चीजें होता रहा तो आई मीन इससे मिलेगा क्या? आई मीन आपने अभी रिवोक कर लिया, चलो ठीक है आपने रिवोक कर लिया, बट अल्टीमेटली आपको मिला क्या? अभी वो बोल रहा है कि नहीं नहीं ये वाला तो हो गया लेकिन दो तीन चीज और रह गए, उसको भी करेंगे तब उठेंगे। वो रह गया, फिर बोलेंगे नहीं नहीं ये वाला बाकी रह गया, इस पर भी बातचीत होना बाकी है। एंड ये जो टाइमिंग हुआ ये अभी क्यों आया? आई मीन ये टाइमिंग क्या? आई मीन अभी तो इलेक्शन होने वाला है, आप इसको पहले भी कर सकते थे। एंड आई मीन मतलब कि अगर आप इस चीज को देखोगे तो हाँ एक मोटिवेशन मिलेगा, ये है ना, एक मोटिवेशन का काम करेगा ये जो आई मीन गवर्नमेंट ने जो स्टेप लिया, आई मीन पीएम ने, ये एक मोटिवेशन का काम करेगा उन लोगों के लिए। अच्छा देखो ऐसे कर सकते थे तो नहीं हो पा रहा था, गवर्नमेंट को कुछ भी करना है तो भाई पूरा बोरिया बिस्तर लेके एकदम रोड पे सो जाना है, वहीं पे खाना बनाएंगे, वहीं पे सब करेंगे, वहीं पे जो होना होगा। अब फिर गवर्नमेंट तो अल्टीमेट झुकेगी ही झुकेगी। सो ये क्या मैसेज, क्या मतलब कि ये हर चीज का एक प्रोसेस होना चाहिए। फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप देखो 1.5 साल से आई मीन, चलो सुशांत केस पे ले लेते हैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हाँ चलो डिजिटली प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं। अब पीएमओ इंडिया में क्या जाता होगा मैसेज, अरे यार डिजिटली कर रहा है ना, कुछ उतना लेना देना थोड़ी है। अगर बड़ा प्रोटेस्ट होगा तो ना उतना दिक्कत, करने दो, शांति से कर रहा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, चल रहा है चलने दो, हम भी चुप है वो भी चुप है, शांति। अब ये लोग दंगा फसाद कर रहा है तो भाई टेंशन हो रहा है, अरे यार नुकसान हो रहा है। सो क्या आई मीन गवर्नमेंट को कुछ मैसेज देने के लिए क्या होना, मतलब कि कुछ लॉस करना, यही क्या मैसेज होता है, डायरेक्ट मैसेज, शांति से कुछ नहीं हो सकता। आई मीन गवर्नमेंट कमेटी बनाती है, बैठती है, बात करती है, आई मीन ये क्या हुआ कि यार वापस ले लेंगे, वो भी इलेक्शन टाइम पे ले लेंगे, ये पूरा पॉलिटिकल मोटिवेटेड है आई मीन। और ये इससे ना बहुत खराब मैसेज आ रहा है, नॉट फॉर अस कि यार गवर्नमेंट ये गलत मैसेज रहा है, बाकी उन लोग से भी जो एंटी नेशनल रहता है, अच्छा ये वाला एक्टिविटी करेंगे ना तो ये वाला फायदा करेगा, इसी से मोदी झुक रहा है और कुछ नहीं है। अगर कुछ भी करेंगे चलो ठीक है, लेकिन ये वाला सही है, ये फंडा काम किया, तो ये क्या मैसेज, क्या आई मीन ये ब्लंडर है सर, सॉरी टू से, ये कोई मास्टर स्ट्रोक नहीं है, मास्टर ब्लंडर है, ये बहुत ही गलत मैसेज जा रहा है इससे।
अच्छा, तो ये बताओ आकाश, आपकी क्या एज है?
सर आप
क्रिकेट
हमेशा
खेलते
मेरा एज ही पूछते हो। नो सर मैं
क्रिकेट
जॉब
खेलते
करता
हो?
हूँ सर, मैं, नो
क्रिकेट
सर
खेलते हो?
मेरा,
क्रिकेट
मैं जॉब कर,
क्रिकेट खेलते हो? तो
सर मैं
जब
क्रिकेट
जब
खेलता था
जब
सर।
ज- अरे देखा तो होगा, मैंने भी देखा है कभी कभी जब क्रिकेट अच्छा होता था। तो वो एक बैट्समैन थे, तेंदुलकर नाम थे, बैट्समैन थे, आदमी अभी भी हैं। तो तेंदुलकर गए ओपनर और तेंदुलकर आउट हो गए, तो क्या आपने टीवी टीवी का सेट फोड़ दिया और आपने बोला मैं क्रिकेट ही देखूंगा, और आपने उन बाकी 9 बल्लेबाजों पे भरोसा नहीं किया क्या? तो
सर
एक
लाइक
एक मिनट,
तेंदुलकर,
मैंने आपकी बात सुन ली यार। यू आर ओके, यू आर अ यंग मैन, यू आर एब्सोल्युटली फायर्ड एंड चार्ज एजिटेटेड, यू आर टेकिंग इट सो पर्सनली। आप मतलब गवर्नमेंट ने विड्रॉ किया, आप इतना पर्सनली ले रहे हैं, वो तो बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है मेरे को देख के। वी नीड पीपल लाइक यू। So now tell me, so you will have no bharosa in the team to deliver, right? At the end of 20 overs, 50 overs, or a 5-day test match, you have that. This particular thing is a long drawn test match. It's not a T20 to T20 result. कि आज ये हो गया तो हम बड़े मायूस हो गए, कल वो हो गया तो हमने ताली बजा दी। अरे यार, जब वो फॉर्म लो आया तो आपने ताली बजाई, बजाई कि नहीं बजाई? बजाई ना?
सर टू बी वेरी
आप
ऑनेस्ट,
आप
मतलब
आप
मुझे,
आप आप किससे हार मान के बैठ गए हो आज? मुझे बताओ ना, मुझे समझ नहीं आया। मोदी ने तो हार माना नहीं, ना मैंने माना, ना वरुण ने माना। आप किससे हार मान के बैठ गए हो? आपको क्यों लग
सर
रहा है कि
मैंने
आप हार गए?
सर मैं उनका डिसीजन से हार माना हूं, एंड मैं उनका जो 1 ईयर से जो जिस तरह से वो वर्किंग स्टाइल हो रहा है, मैं उससे, मैं पहले से सर बहुत हैप्पी था, बट 1 ईयर का जो उनका परफॉर्मेंस लेवल अगर मैं अपने इंडिविजुअली पे देखूँ तो मैं उससे
अरे
डिसअपॉइंटेड हूँ।
यार, मेरे ऐसे लोग जो कि एक प्रोफेशन कर चुके हैं, दो में घुस चुके हैं, चौथा करने वाले हैं, मैं कभी किसी का परफॉर्मेंस एक पर्टिकुलर लेवल तक देखता ही नहीं। प्रधानमंत्री हैं, इतनी सोर्सेस हैं, इतनी इंटेलिजेंस है, कुछ कर रहे हैं, सोच रहे हैं। अगर कुछ आपको उसमें दिख भी नहीं रहा तो वो तो हमारी कमी है ना कि हमको दिख नहीं रहा, मोस्ट प्रोबेबली। बट टू मेक अ डिसीजन, क्या देखा आपने एक साल में? क्या हो रहा है कि एक साल में आपको लग रहा है कि बिल्कुल ये देश डूबने वाला है? कुछ ऐसी फीलिंग
नहीं
आ रही है आपको
देश,
कि देश?
सर
हाँ।
देश डूबने वाला नहीं है सर, आई मीन वो मुझे पुराने नरेंद्र मोदी नहीं दिखते आज के डेट में, आई मीन जो
नहीं तो वो तो
मतलब कि
वो तो वो तो
Okay.
मेरे को भी दिखते हैं। पुराने नरेंद्र मोदी की इतनी बड़ी दाढ़ी भी नहीं थी, सब कुछ नहीं था।
let me
सर आई
throw
एम
an
नॉट
example, Akash.
टॉकिंग अबाउट लुक्स, आई मीन
हाँ।
सर
नहीं
मैं
नहीं
बोल रहा
आकाश
हूँ।
आकाश यहाँ पर we need to also
तीन।
understand the point. What Savio was trying to explain as well, कि यहाँ पर sometimes there are certain decisions, कुछ ऐसे decision होते हैं जो एक larger picture कलर करने के लिए किए जाते हैं। यहाँ पर क्या है क्या होगा, we will get to know very soon. Like Savio said, right, he also does not agree how it has happened, but does that mean that, और ये अभी एनालॉजी जो रोहित कर्नल रोहित ने दी है क्रिकेट में, हाउ मेनी टाइम्स हैव आर की प्लेयर्स, मैं तो कहता हूँ कोई भी प्लेयर के देख लो, किसी का नाम भी क्या लेना, सचिन तेंदुलकर कितनी बार 99 पे आउट होता था, कितनी बार जल्दी आउट होता था। डज दैट मीन दैट ही वाज नॉट गुड? Does that mean that he was a pathetic player and we were just supporting him? No, वो कई बार ऐसी चीजें होती हैं। और टेल मी वन पर्सन, मैं लीडर की बात नहीं करता, टेल मी वन पर्सन। कर्नल इज हियर, चलो कर्नल को मैं, I'll put him on spot right now. As a colonel, somebody who's been in a situation where he had to take lots and lots of decisions at a spur of a moment for the country, for himself, for family. ऐसा होगा कि कोयला ने गलत डिसीजंस नहीं लिए होंगे. Now if he has taken a wrong decision forever, like कभी भी किसी चीज के लिए, तो उसका क्या मतलब है? Does that mean that his family or his team or his cadre, I mean, they should just boycott or banish him and start bad mouthing him? गलती किससे नहीं होती? Maybe if you want to put it like that, कि हाँ उन्होंने गलत किया है. Yes, आप you have freedom of speech, you have the freedom of expression. That's what we were talking about here. That okay, you can consider
No,
yes.
no, Varun, I don't even say that. I say that I like what he's saying as Akash Mehta. I like it because at this juncture, anybody who is thinking like that and he's actually feeling like he's feeling, if I can summarize that anarchy has defeated the democracy, right? That's what his feeling is. What does it do actually? Instead of accepting anarchy, I think the larger game, Akash, you need to play is how to strengthen the democracy.
All right.
So I agree with you. Your angst is justified, but you're leaving it there to fate to say that we have lost. You are fueling the anarchy to do it again. You have to be stronger to face it with the chin up.
Okay. Let me see, what Savio has to say. I'd love to hear his viewpoint around this question. जो आकाश ने पूछा है. Savio, how do you answer this?
You see, that's exactly what I was insinuating to, that at large it's a perception battle. And what I see is that the perception battle has been lost by BJP with regards to this. And I completely agree with what this young guy is saying, simply because at the end, it's what's at the grassroots level. It's not what is on social media. It is what is the perception at a grassroots level and the messaging that has gone out. And from the feedback I've been getting, no matter how much I trust Narendra Modi, the feedback, the messaging is gone out is very negative for the BJP and definitely for Prime Minister Modi. And that's the truth, you know. We have confidence in Prime Minister Modi because we know about him. We've understood what he's done, the good things that he has done. But in the perception battle, and that's been BJP's problem since the new government has come in the second term, that the ability to communicate effectively quicker than the rest of the mediums that are available is actually poor. And that's the reason why I think you see it's like this. That's what I started, right? When I said when he took a decision to bring the laws, it was a historic step. When he takes the decision to withdraw the laws, it's a historic step. And everybody is like, so what happened in between? Was that were there no steps there? So every step is a historic step. Beyond the point, people don't agree to that. Beyond the point, I had some people tell me, you you don't understand the vision or the political machinations of Narendra Modi. Maybe I don't on this issue, and maybe there is something I'm not privy to. But as a layman, when I view it and I assess it, I don't agree with the decision. I agree with the man. So it's like this, right? My father takes a wrong decision, my brother takes a wrong decision. Am I going to hate him for that? Am I going to disown him for that? Absolutely not. I don't have to agree with his decision, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop supporting him. At the end, that's what it's about. If you like somebody, you make a choice to like somebody for reasons, then you stick with that person, even if you don't agree with what he's done. Because what he's done is based on not what is right or wrong. It's based on the decision that needs to be done now. Whether it's historic or not, I don't know. I'm not into big terms. So don't lose hope, is what I'm saying. Don't read too much into things where you're not needed to put in your energy. You need to put in your energy to understanding that there are people around that are working towards destabilizing the country, and that's what we need to deal with. I'm not saying he's done a right decision. I said it right at the start. I don't agree with it. right? So don't give up hope. That's what I'd like to tell the young man. Don't everybody makes people can take decision. Right or wrong is neither for you or me to judge. Time tells you whether it's a right or a wrong decision. It's a decision, he's taken it, let's move on.
Yeah.
Like demonetization. Till now, there is no sufficient evidence to prove that demonetization was a master stroke, because 97% of the money has come back. So where was the black money gone then? And besides, I always had an argument. If a mother kept about 5 lakhs at home, which was cash that her husband would have given her money all the time, and she saved a few, you can't term that as black money, because there is a legitimate route for that money coming in. The husband's money in the bank, from which he would bring home and give it to her, and she would save. So there are many decisions that you might agree and you don't agree with. The most important aspect is whether you agree with the man as a leader. And I have no doubts that he's a great leader.
Right. On a lighter note, Savio, on that point, on the demonetization, I personally have lost 15,000 as well because I couldn't travel and I couldn't do anything, right? Does that mean that I have that black money? No, I did not. That was a money that I was carrying when I was traveling. I was in US. I couldn't go back. I couldn't do anything about it, and I lost it. So, just to kind of lighten up as well. All right, Common Man, please go ahead with your question.
Hi guys, good evening. I heard all of you, and I've seen on Twitter various channels, everything. कोई कहता है कि अरे this is a failure. कोई कहता है master stroke है. कोई कहता है कि यार this is gonna send a bad precision or whatever demand etc. देखिए issue क्या है कि we हम लोग देसी लोग ना बचपन से बोलते हैं ना माँ के पेट से ना हम लोग पिक्चर बहुत देखते हैं जाकि कंक्लूजन क्या होता है कि हैप्पी एंडिंग होती है एंडिंग में यू टेक द बैड गाइज आउट कुछ केस नहीं बनता कुछ भी उसकी तो टपका दिया दैट्स हाउ द सॉल्यूशन इज यू सी तो माँ के पेट से वो बोलते हैं 3 बूंद और वो पोलियो का गुट्टी एंड जन्म गुट्टी एवरीथिंग वो तो पैदा होने के बाद माँ के पेट से पिक्चर देखते रहते हैं सो वी आर यूज्ड टू दैट यू सी और इस बार जो डिसीजन है व्हिच इज नॉट लाइक अ हैप्पी एंडिंग ऑफ वन ऑफ movies actually, so लोगों को थोड़ा झटका बैठ गया. In my opinion, it's not a master stroke or anything. It's a bit of unusual decision, and I'm sure about it. ये कुछ सोच समझ के, there must be something a long thought process about it. क्योंकि look, I observe Modi, what he does, what he doesn't do, even where he goes, what sort of meeting he attends, what sort of events he does. You see. So I observe, and based on that, I would say there must be a long thought process about it. तो ओवर एक्साइट होने की जरूरत नहीं है इतना है कि एक जो खिलौना था okay for whoever was protesting एक खिलौना था farm bill all he's done is he's taken that toy away वो खिलौना ले लिया वापस से उनके हाथ से so now let's wait and see ना क्या होता है ठीक है और आप बच्चे के हाथ से खिलौना छीन लोगे तो क्या करेगा वो कोहराम मचाएगा so let's see what these guys इनके पास कोई कोई रीजन ही नहीं है यार बैठने का अब वो चैट में आके एक बंदा जो कुछ भी कह रहा है I'm sorry, mate, but there is no reason actually for you. So all you can do is you can come and put your comments or vent your anger, जो कुछ भी करना है, वो comments में ठीक है. So now let's wait and see, So take a chill pill, relax, यार. Just let's wait and watch, Master stroke and everything. I don't give it a label or a title, what it is, etc. You see, wait and watch. इतने time से हुआ है, and the guy has made a hell lot of good decisions, This time, it's not a bad decision. It's an unusual decision. Keep it that way. Let's wait and see. इसके पहले किसी ने आज तक किसी गवर्नमेंट ने या किसी लीडर ने ऐसा कोई डिसीजन लिया है? I don't remember anything. या फिर मेरी मेमोरी कमजोर है या फिर can someone give me an example? Anywhere in the world, has anyone done like that before? No. No one can give an example. Is it? So if he's done something like that, it is a historic thing actually, and we should be proud of it. We should be proud of it कि पहली बार यार किसी देसी लीडर ने ऐसा कुछ डिसीजन लिया है. Let's wait and see, And I'm 100% sure this is a very, very long thought process. And okay, what Savio he's done his I wouldn't say homework. He's done his research and everything actually. So maybe there could be reasons what Savio highlighted. You see, next they're going to go on cast and everything, etc. Those things they have been going for a long time. They will be there always. So, it's all right. Let's wait and see. That's what I would say. Overall, I'm not disagreeing with what you guys are saying, Colonel and Savio. I'm just saying, let's not give it a title or a label. Let's wait and see. It's an unusual decision. That's what I would say.
But at the same time, right? I mean, from both Savio and Colonel's perspective, right? I mean, the reason why we have them here is to also understand, because they have some kind of relevant experience, they have that kind of exposure. So let's hear out, what's their perspective. And uh, I don't necessarily agree all the time with what like anybody has to say, but here I can understand there is a commonality between all the comments, and we as common people, as people who might not be directly impacted by this decision, but this also gives us a different perspective. देखने के लिए हमें मिलता है कि you know what, in that position this is what a decision was made last year, in this position this is a decision that has been made keeping in mind certain other aspects. But you're absolutely right, we have to look at the long, like the futuristic thing and wait for. Yes, please.
वरुण, देखने के लिए नहीं, सीखने के लिए मिल रहा है.
सीखने के लिए.
I'll tell you, अगर मैनेजमेंट और लीडरशिप में अगर किताब लिखे ना, मोदी की जो गवर्नमेंट कर रही है और मोदी के जो डिसीजंस, I don't know, there must be some people behind it actually who must be kind of doing all the analysis and coming up, okay, these are the different decisions, which one would you like to pick up or whatever. पर अगर मैनेजमेंट और लीडरशिप में देखे ना आज की तारीख में, तो सीखने के लिए बहुत कुछ है ये करंट गवर्नमेंट से.
Right.
So this decision also is going to be a good lesson कि यार हर बात on a poker table, sometime even if you have the best hands, you got to fold it because you need to know what other people are doing over there. ठीक है, टेबल पे प्रेशर क्या है, कौन कितना शाना बैठा है. You got to do that actually. That's part of the game. That's strategy, you see. So I wouldn't actually worry that much. वैसे भी देख what decision, okay, bill वापस से ले लिया, fine, okay, agree with that, it was for the farmers and everything, okay, let's keep it over there. But हुआ क्या है कि अब इनके पास जो इनके पास जो बोलते हैं ना, there was a reason for it, farmers bill, अब वही ले लिया वापस से. अब इनके पास क्या रीजन है, what's his excuse to sit over there? ठीक है, और इतने सारे स्पॉन्सरशिप्स आ रहे थे अभी, वो भी जैसे कि you guys already mentioned कि इनको फंडिंग आ रही है, फंडिंग ही नहीं आएगी, they don't have a reason to fund. You see, so let's wait and see actually, what will happen. But I would say it's an unusual decision and it's a good one to learn from it, whichever the way it goes. So let's wait and see.
Right.
That's my take on it. Thank you very much, guys. If you have any questions, I'm behind.
Sure.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening.
Stick around, yeah. All right, D Singh, I think you wanted to make a point. I think you, if I'm not wrong, up chat mein bhi the. So please go ahead and put your point to Savio and Colonel.
Hey, thank you, Varun. Thank you. Colonel, this is the first time I'm listening to you. I heard your name, but I don't know your history, and I heard there are some incidents happen. But as a colonel and as a Indian military personnel, I have great respect for you. As usual, I do for everybody. I have families. Savio, I didn't know about you either. When Susan thing happened, and that's when I heard about from you many times, and most of the time I seems to agree with what you say. There are times I did not, but that's all right. I had a lot of things to say, and I'm like I always say, people are not here to listen to me. So I will try to keep it brief. I don't really have any question. I do want to just bring another side. What side I am on, I don't know. So I support, in general, a right to protest. Right, that's where I come from. What happened in last 2-3 protests and what things went wrong, I think there is, external interference, foreign interference, money coming in. That's something a government has to take care of at some point now. So that's all I would say about it. Win or lose, labeling these things, generalizing some things, categorize some things, it can be dangerous. So I don't look from that prism either. Am I a farmer? I'm not. Who am I? My parents were born in what is now we call Pakistan, right? We were refugees. We lost our land, right? I was born in Rajasthan, right? I moved to USA. My kids who are born in USA, right? That's who I am. So I don't really know. If I say I know about farming laws and I read about it, then I'll be dishonest. So that's not also me. Uh, so as far as politics goes, after 84, when I was born, my uncle, they were Congressy, 84 happened. And I kind of start following politics or any party there. BJP, if you as a child, I used to read a lot of newspapers being born. So, and I was taught the history by my parents. I didn't know much about it. So I had good awareness about what the RSS is, what the JP, Janata Party was, what the BJP was. So there are if you were born in that and you come from that side, you have certain mindset there. What I want to say is, today I respect Modi more than what I did yesterday. I'm glad Mr. Modi is our prime minister, right? I was very proud when 370 was taken off. I'm still very proud of when he went and did this surgical strike. That's who I am. I'm a Sikh, right? You know, Again, I heard those protests. These are very complicated things that happen in there. A lot of time, how many people know the ground reality? I don't. I don't know how many do. A lot of rumors come around. Wish you knew all the truth about deaths, rapes, or whatever people are talking about. But a lot of people don't understand the history. Punjab, Sikhs. Do people know the Punjab, how big the Punjab was? Haryana, Delhi, Himachal, all your Kashmir. Punjab there, Punjab here, part of Afghanistan, Hari Singh Nalwa time, right? That was a Sikh state. People know about Kashmir. How many people know about the history of Kashmir when you say Raja Hari Singh or his fathers or what the ancestor, what they used to do? People know has any idea. So when you try to understand farmer Sikhs and perceived what do you call injustice that done to you, there's a lot of history behind that. When Pakistan was made in 1947, we still have those, like we lost our homeland, right? But we still believe in Hindustan. I wish one day we rule over whole Pakistan back. Forget the Kashmir. That's how I say as an Indian, right? That's my dream. One day hopefully we'll do that. But yeah, there is a reality. There are people's perception, people's the things that happened in the past. History is not kind to anybody. Look at any history, even Sikh history, or Indian history. It's not kind to people. I look it up to my Baba Nanak. I look it up to Bhagat Singh. Those are my idols. And I don't want, and I know what Savio and Colonel are here, people who just look at it as from the win or lose on kind of thing. I think, as far as the farm laws goes, I do think, like you said, the smaller, middle-sized farmers need help. Things happening. I don't know about Punjab, but Maharashtra, Andhra, how many suicides that happen? Things that are happening. Those need help. And we need to do it. But you know what? I think, and I do believe in Modi ji that there are times we have to take readjustment. Adjustment necessary. I'm not talking about talk to Congress or other people. Talk to people who know about it. Like, for example, Manmohan Singh, his leadership, look at the history. He opened the market. He was brought by Nasima Rao, right? He brought other scientists, other people in there. So these are the people. So when I hear, like when COVID happened, Manmohan Singh, suggested something at that time, like earlier last year sometime. He suggested how we can better distribute that, right or wrong, take it at the point it is, but what I heard from a BJP minister at that time, he just disregarded. Like, what the heck he knows? He should just go do his job. These kind of things, give the bad perception. I do believe in Modi ji, underneath, there's a lot of layers, right? There's a bureaucracy. There are the same leaders who are in probably who knows what party and what kind of crime that we have, and I heard in Savio one time when he was talking about how BJP is, the willpower to make that strong decision against some people, and I it resonates with me, So things are not just binaries or black and white, there's a lot of layers here. So if you are disheartened, I would say maybe you need to get more educated. You go learn about these things, learn about this. That's the only way you know facts and Get your own information, and that's what I would say. I'm hopeful for the future for India because we have people who are more and more educated. They are doing entrepreneurs, everything. But I think what we may be missing is not learning our history. So that's what I would say. That's my take on it. I think I already took more time than I deserve on this
No,
platform, but I appreciate Varun, Colonel Savio, and everybody else. And thanks for giving me time. Thank you.
no, no. Thank you for expressing. All right, last here, Judy, you're going to be the last one. Uske baad, I really want to hear both Savio and Colonel. So please go ahead with your question or comment, Judy, and then we'll take comments from the guests.
Yeah, hi Varun. Hello, Colonel. Hello, Savio. Um, I have just two or three sections of this question, and I will just keep it as simple as possible. As a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a SSR warrior, I would like to put this in an example way. Though it has never happened in my home, but I would still like to give this as an example. I have now two teens, sons who have all now grown up. But as a parent, when they were toddlers, if one of them would tell me that, I want to have an ice cream when it was a dinner time. So I would be in a dilemma because it's dinner time and he's asking for an ice cream. So, but I want him to have his dinner too. So I bend the rules and say, okay, have the ice cream, but you have to have the dinner too. Now my second one is watching every move I'm making, the way I'm putting this to my older one. And then he thinks that if mom can bend the rules for one, for the older one, why can't she bend the rules for me too? It might not be the ice cream dinner thing. It might be something else. So as a parent, what I'm doing is, though I am trying to manipulate my way of getting through, but it is setting a wrong mind trend or example for the second one, knowing that my mom can bend to anything if I put down my foot or throw a tantrum. Saying that if prime minister does this, what for whatever motives or whatever things he has, is it not putting a mindset for the other ones who are there that if rules can be bent for one person, why not bend for the others? When our Tiranga has been, dishonored, people who dishonored the Tiranga, people who go on international platforms and abuse our motherland, when no action, no punishment is given for such person. So what are we trying to, signify to the world, to the generation? Forget the teens growing abroad. They the ones who don't even know much about our country, but still have their parents as roots from that country. What about those generations which are there in that country, in India? What are we what insight are we giving it to them? That is one section of my question. And secondly is, with everything, if rules can be bent and twisted, where do we stand then in getting justice or closer for Sushant Singh? Where do we stand in getting justice for an honest officer like Samir Wankade? That's all I wanted to put. I won't keep it more complicated. Thank you, Colonel RDX, for your insights and inputs. Always appreciate Savio for your voice, for Sushant Singh, which you always stood. And we hope to hear that voice continue raising justice for Sushant Singh. So thank you, both of you. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Judy. All right. Let me just take, uh, Savio first. Savio, some of the things that we've heard, your responses, your perspectives. We at least if, as far as I'm concerned, Savio, I see what your thought process is right now, what you're thinking, what you've already explicitly documented as well in the form of tweets and your comments and your messages. But right now, based on what you've heard from certain peoples in the chat, now certain people who agree to disagree and disagree to agree to what has happened. Your thoughts and your comments around everything that has been said and done.
Well, like I said right at the onset, I don't agree with the decision taken by the Prime Minister, but I believe that the Prime Minister will take a decision in the interest of the country. So I may not understand it right now. I am not privy to the information that has led to the decision, but I will not term it as a masterstroke in my assessment. I think it's a decision that's been taken out of a certain evaluation and analysis, but it's not a masterstroke, in my opinion. Second, I think when we look at a relationship, in this case, a relationship between the prime minister and the citizens of the country, you do not need to get so overtly emotional on issues which are which are neither right nor wrong, you know. But we are an emotional country, so we're very attached. So it's like if Modi were to make a mistake, then everything would have been wrong about Modi. But we forget that there are people who are not like Modi, like Rahul Gandhi and other political people. They're constantly making mistakes, and we go ahead and forgive them sometimes. After all, we consider them to be dumb. But that's the price you pay actually for being a good person. So I think Modi's over expectations on Modi, his decisions, his way forward will always get him the equal amount of praise and the equal amount of brickbats, and that's the cross that you carry. I wished he would have taken a more different decision. I would have hoped that they could have brought people onto the table to review the laws that were there. I believe the Supreme Court also, stopped the implementation of it. But by sending out this message, and I'm a guy who understands optics better than most people, and for me, the optics just don't work on BJP's favor at a ground level. Whatever happens on social media is basically it's not a necessary a reflection of what's on the ground, uh, because people are disturbed, people are confused, people are disturbed, people are being led to believe that it's a weak decision, people are being led to believe that it's a decision taken in for political reasons, the Punjab elections and the UP elections to be precise. People are saying it's because of Amrinder Singh's impending tie-up with the BJP, and he needed to get an upper edge in the Punjab elections. So there are various points of view. I think eventually we just have to accept the decision and hope that the decision has been done in the interest in the long term interest of the country, and that will show itself. As far as the farm laws are concerned, as far as the messaging to the anarchists are concerned, and to the people around the world, they think that they will find another reason to do something. You people said, okay, Shaheen Bagh was dealt with, COVID came, Shaheen Bagh will go away, the people will leave. The next time they found the farmer protest, a new set of people came, and some of the old. They'll find one more. This is not going to stop. That is my personal view. I know it's not going to stop. I can see it. And normally when I say something, it eventually ends up coming true. Because it's a pattern, it's a trend, it's a pattern, it's the nature of the beast. The nature of the beast is such that it understands the weakness that exists, that persists. That image is everything. That is why there are, even if you analyze Shaheen Bagh, right? What was the onset of the Shaheen Bagh problem? Was miscommunication. They had nothing to do with any Muslim in India. But you ask anybody in the Muslim community that have very little value to the BJP, they will tell you it is against the Muslim community. So the messaging that went against the CAA, and these were young people. I was talking to a Hindu guy from the Xavier's College, a son of a friend of mine, and he lectured me on how it was wrong. I said, you've not even read the bill. So it's a perception battle. Narendra Modi in 2014 came into power. Why? He was non-existent at that point of time. Why did he come into power? Because of a perception battle win. Because there was such furrow over corruption that we wanted somebody that could take care, that could end corruption. Today, the rivals are creating a situation where there is an anarchy, there's unrest. You think the guy who's voting, I mean, it's easy to sit on social media and say, okay, this is right, this is a master stroke. Look at it from a ground perspective. The guy sitting on the ground doesn't care whether you're on social media or not. He's wanting what? He's looking at his fear. He's looking at his hope. That's why this messaging is wrong. That's why the Shaheen Bagh messaging is wrong. What do you think happened in West Bengal?
Yep.
What happened in West Bengal? There was a juggernaut of the BJP in West Bengal, right? They said they would get 200 seats. They ended up with 70. So as consolation prize, the BJP said, oh, we never had so much seats before, but we got 70. Great job. Masterstroke. Please understand the game. A Mamata Banerjee is not going around the states because she thinks she's got nothing better to do. She's throwing money left, right, and center in Goa, getting people. Not that she will win any seats right now. But what is the game? Are we going to sit on our haunches thinking that, okay, everything will be okay? That's what the Congress did in 2014, thinking nothing can drop us. They dropped. And they didn't even have a great leader. So get serious. These are important issues. You can't just brush them aside. There is a movement against the country. There's a movement against Modi. There's a movement against the BJP. But most important, there's a movement against us, our progress, our economic progress, our social progress. The polarization that this country is going to witness in the next 2 years is dangerous for the country. It is very dangerous. That's what's my fear. It's not about Hindus or Muslims or Christians. It's about an Indian. And that's what's getting lost.
Yep. Great points, Savio. And I think a lot of people I saw in the chat as well, they are perfectly and clearly aligned with your thought process as well. And there is some kind of thing going on in the chat, so maybe guys should not even go there. But let me just answer one of the things that some of the people in the chat are commenting. Guys, me being from Punjab or anybody being from a certain section, like Sayo being from Goa, Colonel being from Delhi means nothing. End of the day, it's not Goa is not a country, Delhi is not a country, Punjab is not a country. End of the day, I have to be for the country, and India comes first, nation comes first. So don't try to kind of polarize or kind of put these different kind of images. That is one thing which I would love to say. Colonel, you've heard Savio, you've heard his viewpoint, you've heard others' viewpoints as well. What's your take, and what do you want to say? You are mute. Let me try to unmute you. Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
So I think first I'll go back to the start point what Miss Judy was saying, and she talked about the first child and the second child taking advantage of a precedence, right? Let me tell you, it might work in the family, but if your neighbor's son were to give the analogy of your family and try to extract that same precedence from her mother, probably it'll get wrapped. So that is the beauty of the entire thing. So I'm not equating your family. Once I just trying to give a hypothetical situation there. But look at this, and I'm just reiterating. Only the cabal can grow in strength to stir the anarchy, and the limitation of the cabal is as much of funding and as much of voice it is getting. Even if we take everything into account, the numbers are not there. So for the people who are for the country, our numbers are much more than the cabal any day today, and it will remain so. It is just that how we perceive, and it's just that how we take on the mantle to do the best for our country. There's something which Savio has spoken twice today, and I think we'll keep it from another day. And it's very critical. It is not about people talking about external aggression being at the backstage and internal security being front stage today, and there are people who are sponsoring the death of our nation or destruction of our nation within. The moot point is Indian economy attracts two important things for the last about 6 7 years, and these are: first, you are the biggest emerging and leading market in the making. And second is you are a threat to being a very big manufacturing hub. If these two things are taken note of, and this is not limited to a particular sector of industry, it is absolutely across all the spectrums of all industries, including defense. So if you see it from that point of view, there will be many enemies who in any case will be your enemies, but there will be many friends who will be sweet to you, but otherwise they will be doing all things necessary to ensure that your growth, if not stopped, it at least retarded and not at the scale you want to grow your GDP or otherwise. And that is a common factor because economy drives the world. Economy will try to ensure the surges you have taken, and we have said fifth, seventh largest, sixth largest, seventh, fifth largest. So we are climbing those staircase of economy, and that is a very big threat in being, and that is why there will be enough distractions created in the country, including, like Savio mentions, the social fabric of the country. And this as a point just to correlate what happened before the US elections, the Black Lives Matter and the hysteria to ensure which was created that the administration cannot look after your personal health during the pandemic. Only two things, nothing major, everything was backstage. It was all whatever it ran. And these two things didn't even didn't stop at the grassroots level. From grassroots level to the social media and to whatever media management was done. Now you can go back and check whether how much of stakes the Chinese have in the media in US. You can go back and check that what kind of hysteria was created against the administration for not being able to handle the pandemic. But the truth remains that half the origin of the pandemic, and that someday probably Savio will dissect further, as he has done earlier as well, leads back to China and leads back to even US, interest there. So when you see it from that perspective, what is the thing left about the Indian strength growing? The thing about the Indian strength growing is twofold. One is a strong leadership, and second is the awakening of the Indian, not only in India but also abroad, which is getting people together to think on a common platform, to think on a commonality of approach, how to achieve what India would tend to achieve: entrepreneurship, manufacturing. It's all coming through, and that is the only fear which anybody else in the world would have against our country. And how they would do well or not well to retard this growth is the only question. So the easiest way around, and I said we never lost a war, even when the Mughals came, even when the British came, there was one Jaichand standing here who were opening the doors of the castles to let people in. And that is the way they found the easiest way. Throw some money, show some lure of power, and that is the way it is being happening. Who signed the MOU with the Chinese? It was a political party, right? So there are compulsions of political parties. Who got the funding in the year which led to the previous election in Punjab? The person wanted to be chief minister at two places, right? So it is all happening in our country, and it is not the time. And like that unknown man, common man said that it's unusual, and Savio said that he doesn't agree with the decision taken in the manner, but he did qualify by saying that he's not privy to why the decision was taken. I think it is in the best interest of our country to take it as a decision. And what decision has been taken or repealed? Nothing. That law was never implemented. That law was never implemented. So the law was not implemented, and if these hoodlums who masqueraded and took center stage to defame our nation to do what they did on the streets, if all of that was when the law was not implemented, I mean, you imagine if the laws are implemented. And it is always a wise decision that once the pressures are so high against your own country, and whether it's an opportunity for this government of the day or the party of the day to take that political advantage as well. So, keeping these two aside, whenever the decision is taken in the interest of the farmers next, and my belief is this committee is a source towards that. It will take it to you, take everybody towards that goal with a modified and better showcase, maybe farm laws in the future. Whether it happens in 1 year, 2 years, or the next government, nobody knows. So you can place your bets accordingly. But it's going to come around, and it's going to come around from again the people. And I always say, like that Harpreet Singh was there and he did qualify, and you forgot to catch what he said. So I asked him to qualify the we and the government. His qualification was that he said we are the farmers, and he said the government is the government that we didn't elect. So if you didn't elect a government, and the government is there, I don't know what right have you to term that government in any which case. How are you interested actually? Are you interested in the government? Are you interested in the government to ensure better governance? Have you written one single line in your life to advise the government to take a decision, or you have only contested a decision of the government? There's a difference in the two, right? Today the government as one sees it, and I quote some examples of the national economic policy or anything to do with the infrastructure development world, or the smart cities. The government is telling you this is the policy, and it is putting it on social media and all platforms and websites, and asking citizens to give their suggestions to better India, whether it's a drone policy or whatever policy we have made till date. I have seen the last 7 years. So Mr. Harpreet Singh would do very well, whether farmer, no farmer, name farmer or no farmer, to advise the government constructively to do better governance in the fields they're seeking, the inputs. Just to merely come and say, what have you won? You won some war? Have you won some war? What did you do? What was your role in this to, say that it was the fastest government which you defeated? No, you can only defeat any government which you think you have defeated through the ballot. So you have to defeat any government in a democracy through ballot. So what is this divide you're trying to create? Firstly, you are saying we are farmers. No, you are not farmers. Let me be very clear. Farmers are farmers. The farmers who seek their rights are farmers. The farmers who protest as per the constitution of our country are farmers. Similarly, any citizen who reaches this level of 3 levels which I have mentioned is a citizen. If you take the law into your hands, if you cause unease to fellow citizens, then you can't be a good citizen. Whether you are a doctor, you are a nurse, you are a Fauji, you can be anybody. You're not good. So don't take so much of so-called pride in yourself, which is a disrespect to your own nation, to a level that you want to showcase. What are you calling? Which government are you calling fascist? You mean to say the minister who's working in MOPNG and trying to have less cost of exchequer to the fossil fuel, and the minister who's working in renewable energy sector, the minister who's working towards the betterment of education, the minister who's looking at new opportunities to train the airline pilots in India to reduce the cost, they are fascist? I think they are doing exactly the same thing which you and me would do to better our economy, to better our future, to better our service and our industry. How can you call it fascist? So this is a tone and tenor of somebody who's actually not thinking on the right lines. They are only thinking at devious means to bring the state down, to destabilize, and on every such, so-called occasions when they taste blood, they're trying to showcase it as if a victory has been won. There is no victory. In the loss of the opportunity of the farmer to sell his produce at the cost more than the MSP, you think you've achieved some victory on a pan-India basis? The marginalized farmers in Bihar, UP, the 2 states which account for maximum terms of numbers of population of the country, Maharashtra. What are we thinking about? So these tom-tomming guns from the media, from the political spectrum, from the cabal, who think they have won, you have only won a perception which think you have won. And there I agree with Savio when he says perceptions are important. And this has been a constant line from many citizens, even on the social media, to say that to act is good, but the signaling and the perception management is equally important. The Vajpayee government, which lost by one vote, it was not that Congress government which thought they're going to win in 2014. They knew they're going to lose because of the corruption cases. But the Vajpayee government, which did so much for the infrastructure of our country, assumed that the good work will count, did not see what perception could do. Similarly, this time it is more pronounced. So you know where the wolves are, you know where the country is, and how you make sure that the country is on the right line and takes a decision to choose a government of its liking in 2024 is something which any smart government and politician who have seen a lot of wavelength of the polity in their careers and lives will manage. So these are small steps which are leading to something bigger. I agree. This is a small, effort which you think has gone waste. I don't think so. It has gone waste. Finally, what has the government done? It was not implemented only. What are we talking about? But even if it was not implemented, they didn't succumb to it. They continued with putting the money in the banks of the marginalized farmers by showcasing what they are doing, by putting in more and more refinement into the rural development, not exactly farming directly. So I think they have achieved. So the measure of this government will be taken in the ballot in 2024. It's not going to count what I felt. It is what is going to count is whether did I vote or not. So it's more of a perception, which I think when the logic comes through, when the perception management comes through, it is going to garner larger number of people in this country to face these wolves. The wolves can howl seeing a moonlight today, but अमावस्या की रात भी तो कभी आती है, किस पे ये नाचेंगे.
Very,
ठीक
very
है? So
well
that is
said.
the way it is going to go. It's a seesaw. So let's hope. I just wish to say through your program today towards the end that people should never lose hope. यार लोग नलायक बेटे पे नलायक बच्चे पे भी ना होप नहीं करते यार. ये तो लायक लोग हैं, क्यों इतना आप होप छोड़ रहे हैं? Savio is not left hope even by 100 centimeters today. All that he said is that he doesn't like this decision because he also feels awkward.
Yeah.
He feels because at the grassroots level he's seeing it making an impact, and he's saying with a lot of conviction that perception matters and the signaling is weak. He's saying that, right?
Yeah.
So for a young Ashish Mehta to feel as if everything in life is gone is something which people like you, me, and others have to make sure that they have that hope going forward, and they don't give away that hope. If you give away that hope, then some pope will rule this country, and you don't want that to happen.
Great points. I know we've gone a little more than what I had expected, but great conversation. I'm going to ask one last question, which will be the last thing for the session. But before that, I did post, guys. I myself am very much interested, and fortunately, I would say Savio just did a session today. I'm gonna right after this session ends, I'm gonna watch that clip. He did a session, "Truth Behind the Wuhan Virus" on NewsX. This is the link. आप लोग click कर सकते हैं. Once this session ends, I would love you to continue watching it as well. Because I would also be very much interested. Very few people. I'm sitting here in US. मैं यहाँ पर बहुत issue हुए थे when this COVID virus was being called as a Chinese virus or Wuhan virus. But one man who has stood ground since the initial days of COVID has been Savio Rodriguez, who has been calling it by the real name, which is the Wuhan virus. And of course,
Me too.
I know.
Me too.
So the first time I heard him, Colonel, I was like, wow. I mean, he is taking,
No, but
even Donald.
he's done a stupendous job with Amit ji for that book and the fact check they have done there. It is something which is showing the world what the truth is. That's a yeoman service actually. Otherwise, not many people had gotten away in the second wave by blaming our country.
So that's why I just wanted to kind of highlight that make sure you all kind of look at this particular video, as I'm also going to do it. So thank you for that, and we will definitely talk about this on our platform as well, in the next given opportunity. But the last question or the last point, having heard you, Savio, having heard Colonel, having heard some of the views and perspectives from a lot of citizens and people from the diaspora, uh, going by the theme of this session, whether it's a masterstroke or it's a misfire, if I have to, okay, before I do this, I definitely have to take one person who has been a very vocal person for both of you, a supporter as well as somebody who asked very great questions. So, Svinita, good that you joined at the very last minute. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to come earlier, but I got some phone calls. So I might have, I've missed like half of the discussion in between, and the only reason I came back is because this topic of the farm bills. I have a couple of questions for both Savio and Colonel RDX, and one comment in general. Number one is that there are I only recently started to read the details of the bills, like the act. There are the I didn't fully understand it before, and only recently started to understand it. There are some very good provisions in there which would benefit a lot of farmers and the entire supply chain, and there are some that were questionable from my economic perspective. So, in the sense of whether this was a masterstroke or not, that only time will tell. But question that I have for both of you is, knowing the history of Modi government's sort of steps that they have taken in many big changes, such as the abrogation of Article 370, or the demonetization, all these big moves that they made. What is your sense on this move, whether this being a tactical move or a strategic move for the government?
This has been definitely covered over the session as well, but I don't know if you want to summarize or if you want to say anything. I'll start with you, Colonel Rohit, if you want to say something.
I already tweeted after a couple of minutes, and the second line was it's a strategic move.
Okay. The reason so if you think it's a strategic move, um, so far in these changes, there are, at least in the videos I have seen in the parliament, the debates between the different member of parliaments have been at best they're like ludicrous. So if a bill needs to pass, uh, you would think that experts are put in the right place and they are debating at a highest level. So I don't know if this is truly a strategic move, because the way the bill was even passed originally had questions around its
No,
validity.
no, Vinita ji, I didn't talk about the bill. I talk about this repealing of the bill.
Okay,
B-
okay,
bill never was.
okay. All right. So, do you foresee that this could be a start of a new way for Modi government, meaning that now people have learned that, oh, he can back away from his decisions. So let's just keep operating in the same way. Do you foresee that on other topics as well?
I come from a profession, and especially the arm I come from, one of our strategy for the enemy was also always used to be luring the enemy into the killing ground.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's a very, very important way to do it. It is luring the enemy into the killing ground because now they exactly know where it leads to. So let's see.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so
I
much
think
for.
Savvy wanted to answer something.
Yeah.
No, I only wanted to say that the decision would have been very strategic. Otherwise, Modi wouldn't have taken a decision such as this. It's only the perception battle. My worry is always
Yes.
perception, because I believe we won 2014 based on perception. The scams, the the loot that was made out to be, and then of course nothing much happened on the cases that were put in against people or spoken about. So perception is a very dangerous thing. Since I work in those boundaries, I know how it operates, and I know the damage that it can do from one person, then how it can get to 1,000 to then 10,000 people. That's what's my biggest worry. My worry is not the decision to bring the farm laws or not to bring the farm or to repeal the farm laws. It's the manner in which it's done and how you go about communicating it in the most effective manner. This general belief that people forget in India is actually a misnomer and a fallacy. People don't forget. It is your weakest that they remember you most, not when you're the most strongest, right? So if you have to go by the example. And why am I saying now? Simply because 10 years of time in a run-up to the parliamentary elections is a time when there's going to be extensive polarization happening. In 2014, for the 2014 election, the India Against Corruption Act started way before, right? So what was that? That was a civil movement, right? It
Yeah.
was a civil movement against the government at that point of time. You had the Nirbhaya case at that point of time that also, damaged the Delhi government extremely badly, the Sheila Dikshit government,
Yeah.
right? So it's always a perception battle. It's very easy to believe that you are already winning the perception all the time. That's my problem. My problem is at the CAA, BJP lost the perception battle. I said that before. My problem with this decision now also is the perception battle. If it was something that was going to get done, then the communication could have been dealt with differently. This shock and awe mechanism doesn't always work.
I
There's a
100% agree with you. And that has been my
this
biggest
shock.
worry about
Yeah.
Modi as a leader. I do genuinely think that he wants our country to be at the highest possible spot. But at the end of the day, how we achieve it is a totally different thing. And so demonetization, for example, the way it was implemented, I saw no sense in it. I understood what he was trying to do, but at the end of the day, whether it achieved what he wanted to get out of it, I don't think it happened. So you are
So
absolutely
that's
right
the
on the
point. The
perception.
point I'm saying, as far as, see, the reason why I say that is because, okay, let me give you an example of Goa. Okay, since we are running into elections, and I'll take maybe 2 minutes more. In 2012, in the wave of the corruption that Goa witnessed because of the Congress government, Manohar Parikar's clean form of governance managed to get a majority. And they did it beautifully because they really went after the corruption and that got exposed. So there was illegal mining, there were casinos in the rivers in Mandovi, lots of protests, lots of agitation. When Manohar Parrikar became the chief minister, the illegal mining changed to irregular mining. The casinos continued to remain there. And before Manohar Parrikar could actually do what he set out to do, which would have been good, he moved to become the defense minister, and another chief minister was put in his place. Now, you would have thought that with Manohar Parrikar as the defense minister, BJP already in the majority, Congress dropped to 9 seats. It should have been the end of the Congress in Goa. But no, it was not. The Congress came back. They got 17 seats. BJP got 14. One minister moved on. It dropped. One MLA moved out to BJP. That was Rani, and then you had them drop to 13. By dropping down to 13, they formed the government through a political machination, through an alliance. It was not the single majority party, right? So what was that? There was a great man at the helm of it. Mr. Parrikar would have changed the way Goa would be if he continued. But the people were different, right? The people chose not to. because they had lost the perception battle in Goa. It's always about perception. It's not what a person really is. And Mr. Modi is somebody who does, who wants to do good. But sometimes your communication is what's required when it matters the most. And that's my fear.
Yeah, 100% agreed with that. I think this has been a problem overall. I think with the administration, that it can give a very duplicated way of sorry, in a very the high and mighty. I'm the high and mighty. That perception has unfortunately stayed in a large group. Although that was never the intent, I get it. From his perspective, he wanted to do good, but I think the perception was the other way.
All right. Thank you, Vinita, for
Thanks.
joining.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
to both of
I,
you for
I didn't want to
engaging
skip
in
you.
this
All right,
conversation.
going back to the last comment, and I hope we can wrap it up in the next 1 or 2 minutes. But going by the theme, Savio, and going by the theme, Colonel, we were calling this either a masterstroke or a misfire. So if you have to just sum it up and say, maybe one line, whether it was indeed a masterstroke or a misfire, or if you just want to kind of generalize it, I leave it up to you. The last comment that you want to make around this repealment of the farm bills. I'll start with you, Savio.
Well, I don't think it's a masterstroke at all. But I don't think it's a misfire either. I think at best it's a decision that was taken in the interest of the country, in the interest of the timing that the Prime Minister decided to take that decision. And because he is Narendra Modi, and because I believe that he won't do anything that is disastrous to the country deliberately, I think that the decision will turn out to be just fine. Though I may not agree with it.
Very well said. And just a lot of your fans or a lot of your followers are here saying, and one of them is Akash. He's saying, and he's been pushing me to say this. Tell Savio that I really like the topic title, which is Wuhan virus, and he's not calling it Corona. So a lot of people really appreciate, including myself. So you can
Thank you.
put in that. And like I said, guys, definitely on NewsX on the YouTube channel, go and watch it. Uh, Potentially right after this session ends. So I'm kind of pushing that as well. All right, Colonel, what do you say? Masterstroke,
Ve- Very briefly, when you talk about the demonetization, just 2 pointers there, and one incident which will tell you what was happening, and one pointer. So there's a vehicle coming, and I've told on your show on some other aspect in command post in Uri. It is caught by a young captain. I happen to be around there in CVs visiting that place. And I said, what happened? He says, at the floor of this truck, which is that typical Pakistani truck, there is currency. And after a few days in the iftar party, I meet a person of official importance. And I ask him what happened to that. The answer is, Janab, jahan jana tha, wahan pahunch gaya hoga. Seeing that, and the other aspect, which is about the political part. Elections coming in, a lot of black money flows here and there. It buys a lot of votes, buys a lot of votes. From even that perspective of these two small things, one is national security and one is political component, demonetize. I think masterstroke, right? Similarly, when you come here today, fastest Modi label is taken away, masterstroke. What did he have to lose? Nothing, because he never implemented anything. So at no cost, right? So at no cost, aim achieved. And at that same no cost, to get back the farm laws, there is always a mean. Again, a democratic and a legal mean. It will come through. So I will not say it's a misfire at all. Nothing which is fired is generally a misfire, because if nothing else, it has hit many sides of the equator today, and one side doesn't know what to do because they're out of job. So it's an absolute bullseye there. And the only problem is the perception battle, which Savio is alluding to. You will take time. We will take time. More people will understand, and when they see some hope, and let me tell you, The entire thing about politics, like Savio says, and I agree 100% with the short-lived memory of us Indians, is timing, right? Except the Sushant case, which has no time. It is, absolutely timeless. It will continue. 2023 end, who knows what the next stroke is in this master stroke, right? So let's wait, let's watch. And like Common Man said, he termed it unusual. I don't know why he termed it unusual, because unusual is a measure of your own ability to perceive actually. And I have given you 4 reasons. I have stated the 4 reasons on social media handle as well. And I will stick my neck out. It's a very brilliant strategic move. That is the way to go. Had you done this in, say, October, November of last year, I don't think so. It would have been a good move. But today, 1 year down the line, timing it to something to be able to retain the stance to go to that state and have a campaigning, even politically, to be able to create some kind of a, you know, way to interact there is also a good move. So I'm quite convinced. I'm not saying it's a misfire at all, because it hit a lot of people. You imagine people have gone bonkers. They don't know what to do with it,
Yeah.
right? So it has hit. The other part is what you say, a master stroke, right? Master stroke is defined when you can understand the stroke being played. So too early day to understand that, but strategic move, that is where me and Savio probably agree. It has to be a very deep thought move. As per Savio, as per me, I think it's a deep thought move. That's the only difference in translation of maybe 48 hours we have, and we will be on the common platform by the time we come to the end of this. So I think happy days ahead, and I think it is a good time for some people to generally go back home, have a nice soup, and enjoy themselves. And those people who feel alienated from their homes, they can't go back, and they think the street is the best place for them to stay. Do hang on and see the stars. Stars can be shown to you even in the daytime. The day is not far. So I can only say, be wise, not otherwise. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, both of you. And not on a lighter note, but on a side note, Savio, a general comment for you. A lot of people I've seen on social media, and now I see it in the chat. This is a comment which has come out a lot. I'm sure you must be thinking you did put a tweet around this as well, but people really want and would love to see Goa as a model state and would see you at the helm of affairs if possible.
Best of luck, Savio. You got a job there. Perception battle. I will join you if you want me to create perceptions.
Sorry, you are mute. Okay, now you're
You
on.
mute, Savio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm humbled by the encouragement. To be honest, let me state that I've asked the concerned people that if they think, in all fairness, that I need to participate in the electoral process, uh, then I would not hesitate to.
Perfect.
But it needs to be done at a time where I get ample amount of time to make that necessary impact that I need to. Though there is a popularity and people do know me, I think electorals are a little different from being somebody that people appreciate on the media. It's a little bit more strategic. It's a little bit more uh,
Difficult.
different in election managing. Managing is a little different. Ideologically, yes, I'd like to play a very decisive role as far as the progress of the state is concerned. I like to take forward what my mentor Manoj Parikar taught me, and I want to take that forward. And if if it's something that Ma Saraswati decides, then all the factors that are necessary will fall in place, and one will progress in that direction. But if it does not work that way, for reasons you know uh, decided by fate, I will still continue to do what I set out to do in terms of being the nationalist that I am and contributing to the state and to the country, because that really is what I am. By character, by purpose, by even my want of further education, I'm more of a thought leader. I'm more of a peacemaker. I'm more of an intellectual. I'm not a guy who's necessarily interested in sitting on a seat of power. What I'm interested in is ensuring that people who sit in the seat of power actually have that kind of knowledge to take the country forward. That's the kind of person I am. So
Wonderful.
I'd love to. I love the country, and I think we can. progress. I love Goa. I mean, I just can't wait to get back and chill out at my place whenever I travel. That's because there's a sense of positivity in the state. Um, I feel like home, because it is home, and more importantly, it's given me a lot of the positivity I require, for life. The combination of family life, work, the ability to think rationally, cluttered away from traffic jams that get you your rage and get you completely.
Savio, it's been only a few months in Delhi NCR.
Correct.
Savio's
And
talking about traffic.
so no, I lived in Mumbai, so one of the reasons I left Mumbai was traffic. I would go from Borivali to Nariman Point in my car and spend 5 hours both
I
ways.
know.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Monsoons,
I
huh?
love Goa for that. I think Goa is very positive, and I want to contribute to it. But that's an intent. An intent. A lot of people are saying, why don't you throw your hat into the ring? So I said,
Yeah.
okay, if it's supposed to be, it will happen. If it's not, we'll wait. I'm not in a hurry, and I ain't going anywhere anyway.
Absolutely. And to end this on the lighter note, Savio just said, I love Goa. I question who doesn't love Goa.
Who
Everybody
doesn't love
loves
Goa?
Goa.
My
So,
son loves Goa. Every time I ask him where you want to go, he says Goa.
all right. So hopefully my first visit, unfortunately I've not been to Goa, but my first visit, whenever I visit, hopefully I'll see, Savio at the helm of the affairs and someone who will be, making it a model state. So I'm really looking forward to that. So once again on
And
that
even if I'm not
Savio, I think
in government, I will make it into a model state. So you can come
perfect.
Savio,
over. We still control it.
I think Savio is destined for greater good of our nation. So
Yes.
don't worry about it. And what is that song? K Sera Sera. Savio, it will be as it is
Absolutely.
destined. So I have a lot of faith in the process and probably you more than that. So let's see you somewhere and
Thank you.
continue doing it.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very,
All
very
right.
positive note. Thank you so much, both of you, again, spending
Jai,
a lot of time, some extra time as well, but always
Jai.
very fruitful time with both of you. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat,
All
and
right.
I'll see you
God
guys
bless.
soon.
Jay. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye now.
Take care.
All right, guys, another amazing session. I will say good night, goodbye to all of you. I'm gonna get up from the seat with a lot of positivity, with a lot of hope, and we will continue to talk. One last comment: the reason I did not end the session right away was, guys, if you really want meaningful sessions, if you really want very healthy, very positive sessions, uh, I would only suggest and I would only encourage you guys to keep me, as the neutral one. I don't want to be categorized as a political affiliated person or a religiously, influenced person. I really don't want to do that. All I want to say is, I will be the neutral person. I want to be that way. uh, when it comes to a point where I have to, I will. But on these sessions where I get some guests, some panelists, some amazingly intellectual people who are here to share their views, let's not dilute the whole meaning of the session. So I really want to just leave you with that message. uh, बहुत कुछ करना है, मिलके करेंगे, and there are so many things that we have to address. Let's work for our country and let's not make it political or religious every single time. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.